before I decided that I wanted to like give my life to India, I'd been to a few places around the world and seen really harsh and hard situations, harsh realities, and having to wrestle with like, how does God feel about the world? How does He feel about like what does He have to say about the poverty in the world? I think I just had to make a decision, like, God, I want to make a commitment to You, and I want to serve You in the world through the people of India. I want to teach them about You, and I want my life to like reflect what You are able to do in a human being. For us, it's become India is that hope, or is that thing looked forward to, if you will.
People are invaluable.
What sets India apart is, though it's starting to become like a burgeoning economy, and they're the world's largest democracy, as people would like understand, it's still very rooted in its history, and it's one of the oldest cultures on the earth. It can be traced back to even 5,000 years. And the way that things have been done have been built upon through tradition and through many of the stories that are found within Hindu texts, that though people would see it as a religious text, it's also a historical text for them. And it's the way in which people do it, the way in which people live their lives. It's very opposite to Western culture. And you really feel that. You really feel that when you're there. You feel that we want our space, and we want like things to go smoothly and to be clean and to be ordered, and in India it doesn't work that way. Not to say that that's bad, it's just not the West, and it's very Eastern.
Something I think that marks Indian culture specifically is that unlike the West, culture and religion go hand in hand in almost every area of their life. Hinduism, to be Hindu is to be Indian, and to be Indian is to be Hindu. Even if you do practice another sect of religion, you are still considered Hindu. That's part of just who they are. Like Josh was saying, like the religious texts are historical texts as well. It's not distinct the way it is here, where we separate and compartmentalize our lives, but the way that they interact as family. It's cultural and it's religious.
Corcovado parted the sky.
The caste system in India is probably one of the most unique things about Indian culture. The caste system was designed by a group of colonizers that came into the Indus Valley, which is where India is now. And they looked at the people and wanted a way to organize the community and to make sure that there were certain parts of society that were being taken care of. Same way we would here, they wanted people to be able to take care of sewage and trash. They wanted people to take care of civil law, people to take care of trades and markets and things like that. And although they had good intentions, what ended up happening is they divided society, specifically having to do with the color of people's skin and just their status in society. And this idea of the caste system has been taught and proliferated in their society. And although legally it's not supposed to exist, it's been in practice for thousands of years. And they continue to hold on to this cultural belief that you were born into a caste, whether it be the lowest or the highest, and no matter what you do in your lifetime, you can never move out of that assigned caste. Although you can ask, anyone that's in the Indian government or that's wealthy, they'll say that this doesn't exist. But everyone knows that the caste system is a very defined part of Indian culture. I know that for us specifically, we get our example from Jesus, who spent his time with the peasants and the farmers and the lowliest people in society who were illiterate, who were hungry, who they were basically the nobodies of their society. And that's who he spent his time educating. That's who he spent his time in their homes. You know, when you see of Jesus giving, you know, providing food, you don't provide food for people who have food. You provide people who don't have food. When you see him teaching, he's doing that for people who've never had the opportunity to be in school because they've had to work their whole life. We see that Jesus always came to restore them, to give them back what they didn't have so that they could have dignity again. And so for us to involve ourselves in the lives of the poor and the marginalized, the most forgotten people in society is something that we see Jesus doing, and that's something that we want to imitate. And so specifically, when it comes to where I want to specialize in regards to health is just the overarching needs of maternal health in India. The region that we'll be working in has some of the highest maternal mortality rates, and 1 in 40 women die after giving birth to their newborns, and it's such a startling and overwhelming need. And I know that one way that I am able to do something about that is to just educate young women and women in general about their health and the simple things that they can do to take care of their bodies, whether it's through nutrition or through different kinds of exercises to help just strengthen their bodies, and just being able to participate and encourage them and let them know that they can do something about where their health stands, and they don't have to wait for the government to do something, but that just by learning and being empowered through education, that the maternal health in India can change, and that it can do something powerful for their society when that finally happens.
We were in a small village in India doing a health clinic, and the task that I was given was to do assessments for the people that had come. It was a small agrarian community. We had passed farms, farmland on the way in, seeing people working, mainly women. As people came, most of the community gathered. It was the hope of like somebody to find some sort of health care from. And so everybody would come through me and a friend of ours, and we'd listen to the translator as we tried to figure out what the health issues that they were feeling that had brought them there. As we continued to travel in India and become aware of the culture and even things that were current issues that were happening, it became clear that women were in pain and were having to do hard manual labor jobs because there were no jobs for the men in the villages that would pay enough to feed their families. So they would all go to the cities in the hopes of finding a better job, something that they could sell, raise money and be able to send it back to their families. And so you would find villages that are absent of men and where women have to do the hard work. That was one of the things I think that first cued me off to the need of a sustainable, learning some sustainable agricultural techniques. Not necessarily just to teach farmers how to farm, which they've been doing for thousands of years, but to perhaps bring something to them that would enable them to feed their families off of something that is supposed to feed their families, you know. For me, sustainable agriculture is something that I hope will enable me even to build relationships with farmers, with the men that's their task, that's their job, and in doing so, develop relationships, friends even.
There is a house built out of stone.
I think that one of the most memorable times that I've ever had overseas, and in India specifically, was on my first trip in 2007, and it was the last week we were going to be in this one part of India, and it was the hottest and probably poorest part of the world I'd ever seen. And it was a really, really hot day. It was probably at least 115 degrees outside. It was a Sunday evening, and I remember walking through this village, and the sun was setting, and we were following this group of Indian women through this village, and they said, "We're going to take you to a special meeting." And there's just 3 of us girls from the team that are going to minister. We didn't know what we were walking into. They just kept saying, "It's a special meeting, it's a special meeting." And as soon as we get there, the lady that led us there turned and asked us, "Who of you can teach?" And it was one of those almost impulsive moments, but at the same time, I just really felt like God urging me to, just giving me this confidence. And I just blurted out before I could stop myself. I was like, "I'll teach, I'll do it." And the moment I said that, I was like, "Oh my gosh, what am I doing?" I wanted to just encourage them that, like, it didn't matter what caste they were in, it didn't matter how much education they had or what color their skin was, but that God was going, He had promises for them, that He was going to meet them where they were at, no matter how scary or how desolate their lives seemed or felt, that He was still alive and that He was still working in the world to redeem their situations. And that's what I wanted to share. And I remember as we were leaving that meeting, and Usha, the translator, we're walking down the road, and she said, "Thank you so much for sharing that story." And I was like, "Yeah, it was meaningful to me, and I hope that I could communicate how special you are to God." And she said, "All of us women in India, we've never felt worthy to know God, but now we know we're worthy." And it was just a very impactful moment for me, and I knew that that's what I want to go back and do, is remind women that they're worthy and God would remember them.
Both Deb and I have been training at GOD International for the past 5 years now. The organization itself has been it's been around since 1999, and its mission is to create a globally conscious community that's able to serve the poor and marginalized through education, empowerment, and advocacy, that we seek to demonstrate the love of Jesus Christ without discrimination. Because it's so rigorous, we're learning all the time, we're training all the time, thinking all the time about what it is that we're going to be doing in the future, so that we'll be prepared. Any generosity that we receive frees us up to be able to do that. I work almost full time in order to be able to aid in this mission, and so when people are able to give and help us out and love that way, that we are able to train more time is able to be devoted to preparing, to learning, and so it's something that is essential, and it's vital, and it's so helpful, that in an integral part of what we're doing. So.